This is Superintendent Carol Smith's solution for solving Chapman's overcrowding. Currently housed in the proposed kindergarten space are two programs serving historically underserved students. A PPS Head Start preschool, which serves lower income families, is the only full-day Head Start program on the Westside, and an early intervention program serving students with special needs. These students have been voiceless in this whole process, but we are asked to displace them. So these families, some of them are full-time working families, some are homeless families and students. But now we've displaced them, and now we are going to do something that is against PPS policy, which is we're going to dismantle a K through 5 school by taking its kindergartners out. We at Chapman have 100 kindergartners. We have 4 kindergarten classes, and we're going to place them in the Ramona. And this is going to seem like Chapman is now right-sized by removing one part of its or isolating one part of its school program, the kindergartners. This is against the Chapman community. We do not want to do this. There are families this will be such a hardship for them to have one kid, their youngest, at the Ramona and one of their other children at Chapman. Is really unfair. This is not equitable. Across PPS, the model is to have a K through 5 standing elementary school. So you can see how already this proposal is not equitable and is not just and is not right. So we question this proposal quite a bit. So let's say this does happen and the kids are now at the Ramona and Chapman is still here. This seems like it's has solved the problem of Chapman's overcrowding. But this is an illusion because right now, Portland is still building. And in the Pearl and Slabtown, there are 4,500 units being built right now. And this is in Chapman's catchment. And so with these buildings and the high density in these buildings where thousands of people can move in and then hundreds of families with children, and we've seen hundreds of kids before move in when just one building's gone up. So when you have all these kids, and we have Chapman that's now a split campus, what we're going to see now is that these students in these new buildings that are put up, they're not just kindergartners, although there are some, so we're going to put them in there. Really, you see the problem that's happening here. So now, this is, some first graders are now at Chapman, and now second graders. We have more second graders and more third graders and fourth graders and fifth graders, and I can't even get them all in here. So you can see how quickly the overcrowding solution is not going to help. So we recommend a different option. This is not a solution. This should be voted no by the board on Tuesday. This is not equitable. This is not equitable when you have 2 programs, NLC and Spanish Immersion, that are option in programs. Some of them serve students not even in the neighborhood. MLC has 80% of kids not in the neighborhood. Spanish Immersion at Ainsworth, it can move. It has a place to go to as a whole. They would be able to keep their K through 5, the integrity of a K through 5 program, which would be great. Instead, PPS is asking Chapman Elementary to shoulder the burden of the overcrowding and the overpopulation that is happening in the densest part of the city of Portland. This is wrong. One school, one elementary school should not be asked to shoulder this burden. The good news is that the PPS board gets to vote on some actual solutions to this problem. One solution, not backed up by Superintendent Carol Smith, is that the neighborhood part of Ainsworth and the Spanish Immersion part of Ainsworth, one solution is to actually take the Spanish Immersion, it's K through 5, so they're moving intact, and moving the whole program to another school called East Sullivan. And I know that there's been some complaints of, oh, this school is not big enough to have a K through 5. There's a lot of people that disagree with that. Maybe there's some remodeling that has to be done. It was an elementary school before. It held a huge amount of 6th graders who were part of East Sullivan's middle school. And just like Chapman, Chapman is not big enough to hold all these students. So you probably are wondering, how do they do that? Well, some of them are in the basement. We have portables. We have partitions. So the Spanish immersion, the school is pretty nice. They can put up some partitions if they need to, but this would really be helpful of really solving a huge major problem in the inner west side of Portland. So if Spanish immersion moves and we get to uncap that part of Ainsworth, this is what actually gets to happen. Ainsworth gets to become a neighborhood school. So now you would have 2 inner west side schools that are neighborhood only schools. They don't have a lottery and they don't cap their numbers. And this would be really beneficial because now, as you can see, students can start filling in the place where Spanish immersion used to be, and some more students and families can move in. And everyone, Chapman gets to stay K through 5. And also Ainsworth gets to stay K through 5. This is fair and equitable. And also Spanish immersion gets to stay K through 5, which is fantastic. So this is a great solution for the inner west side. It is not the only solution. It is also a best case scenario really at this moment. The problem with this scenario is that the city of Portland keeps building onto the Pearl and Slabtown, and there are still going to be many more students moving in, right? But at least we now have 2 schools on the inner west side working together to help place and shoulder the burden left by the city. So having 2 neighborhood schools for the inner west side is a great solution to really help solve the problem that is happening right now with the population growth. But it is not going to be enough. So we have Ainsworth and Chapman that will be shouldering the burden together of the huge population growth that's happening. Right now, the city of Portland that we know has issued 4,500 units, permits that are being built. And the real problem with that is that when one building is built, it's the height of it. It means that thousands of people are moving into one building alone. This is not like building a house. So with that comes, and we've seen it, that hundreds of kids can come from one building. And then we are looking at where these children go. So really, Ainsworth and Chapman need another school, and if the city of Portland and PPS aren't building another school, we're going to have to ask MLC to help shoulder the burden. So MLC can, uncap itself and change its policy to at least having 50% of the students in their population come from the neighborhood. Because you could live right next door to MLC right now and not get in, even though you live right next door to this building. So it would be really beneficial if MLC opened its doors and started allowing 50% of the population to be part of the neighborhood. And that would really help shoulder some of this burden. But it may not be enough. MLC may need to turn into a neighborhood school too to help shoulder the burden. We really don't know how many more students are moving in. The city of Portland keeps issuing more and more building permits, and more children are moving in. We need a fair and equitable solution for our public education, for our students, for the inner west side. Right now what's going on is unbelievable that one school, Chapman, would be asked to shoulder all of this burden alone.